Hello everyone and welcome to webinar number 6. My name is Catherine Newington and I'm the ACS ICT Educator Specialist. And we've been bringing you a virtual development series for the last couple of weeks. Today we're going to be focusing on creating a scope and sequence specifically around the digital technologies curriculum. Now, again, as usual, it is going to be a jam-packed session and I'm so excited to bring you lots of guest speakers that we have today. First of all, I'm going to take you through creating a scope and sequence and the considerations that you might want to have a look at and some also planning documents to help you create a yearly planner and a yearly scope and sequence, especially if you are a digital technology specialist teacher. On board with me as well, I've got Nicola and Angela from Primary Connections. Hopefully you are familiar with some of their amazing resources that they have brought out. I know that when I was teaching, they would be one of the first resources that I would look for when I would be teaching a science unit. They've been reworking and aligning their units of work to the Australian curriculum, and they've also started to align it to the digital technologies curriculum as well. So they're going to take you through some of the resources that they already have and what you might already be doing within science and how you can bring the digital technologies curriculum into that. There's no point reinventing the wheel, I say. And lastly, we're going to hear from Tegan. And she's a teacher down at Phillip Island, and she is a brand new specialist teacher this year, specifically for the digital technologies curriculum from Foundation to Year 4. I wanted to bring on a brand new kind of teacher who the school is looking through how to increase the digital technology awareness within their school. And I wanted to bring on Tegan just so you can see what her experiences is and where she's going to go forward. A lot of teachers that I know that have connected with me, they're also in the same boat. So it's really perfect opportunity to see what other people are doing in this space as well. Lastly, we've got question time, and I urge you, if you do have a question that pops up during this session, to please write it in the chat and we will make sure and we will endeavour to try and answer that at the very end. If you have a specific questions that you might want to target either to myself or the Primary Connections team or Tegan, just pop our names at the beginning and then I can direct those questions specific to the person at the end of it. As always, all of our resources are within the ACS ICT Educator community. So if you pop this into your browser or take a quick snapshot of it now, you'll find that within the forum there is a specific forum dedicated to Webinar 7. So all of the resources that we speak about today that are within the resource folder that you can download now will be available afterwards. So if you are watching this as a recording and we do talk about some of the PDFs that you'll find in this resource file, fear not, I've put them all into the ICT Educator community for you and you'll be able to access them. You'll also be able to access this slideshow as well. So if you'd like to take any information and possibly use it as a professional development for your staff, by all means, please do. So today is all about, what I have noticed recently is a lot of schools are going down the path of a digital technology specialist teachers. And we certainly have advantages and disadvantages of having one specialist teacher within the whole school. One thing that I do find is on the advantage is that it's been able to bring in the digital technologies curriculum. And I know a lot of teachers are quite overwhelmed teaching this particular curriculum, especially if they've never taught it before. The disadvantage and something that I see as a bit of a concern is that if we have one teacher as the holder of all knowledge, my question is then what happens when that teacher leaves? What we want to be able to have is a lasting program at the school as well. So, if we do have one of those teachers that does leave, where does that program go? And so we still want to have it as a whole school approach as well. So if you are someone who is in that digitech space and you are that specialist teacher, a way that you can start that whole school approach is starting to deliver some professional development during staff meetings as well to ensure that you get that language across the school and there's not just relying on one person to deliver that curriculum as well. So today, I'm not just going to be providing you a finished scope and sequence. I'm sorry about that, because I don't just want to hand over one piece of information and say this will be perfect for your school. I've got teachers all across Australia that have dialed in today, and thank you so much for joining us. And I recognise that every school is different, and they will have different robotics, different approaches to the digital technologies curriculum. What I then want to provide you for is tools and processes to create that unit of work that will fit in specifically into your school. Overall, when we are looking at the digital technologies curriculum, and when I think about it, implementing it into a school, I want to create a unit of work and lessons that inspire our students to solve problems with digital technologies. I want them to be able to inspire and make a greater impact of the world that we live in now and in the future. I always joke and say that I want the students that are in primary school now to make my retirement a lot more comfortable with the use of digital technologies. And I want our students to be able to see that there is a purpose for digital technologies to improve our society as well. So not just, moving a robot back and forth, but to able to see the power and potential that digital technologies can hold. So when I'm always creating resources and assisting teachers, that's always in the back of my mind that, as teachers, and I'm sure you would understand as well, that really our main job is to inspire those next generation of learners and also digital technology users. So when I'm thinking about a digital technologies curriculum, I want to start off with thinking about and creating a big picture thinking. So first and foremost is look at your school and look at the outer community that you have and find ways to connect digital technologies that way. When you start looking at what's happening in your community, you're then making the experience learningful and meaningful for your students that you have within your community. So it then provides them learning opportunities that are authentic for their environment. One of the examples is the school that I used to teach at is that we were actually a 5-minute walk away from a beach. How amazing was that? I actually had the room that had the bay views of Melbourne. It was prime real estate. That was the room that everyone wanted to teach in. But the message was that we had to utilise the beach because we had it in walking distance. So when we looked at a sustainable unit of work, straight away, instead of just looking sustainability as a whole focus, what we did was we honed it down and looked at sustainability within a beach and the ocean view, because these students had access to the beach straight away. We then brought in the digital technologies curriculum because we wanted to see how digital technologies was helping us clean up the oceans. Again, it's going back to making something authentic and meaningful for them and understanding how it gives the world just that better place that we're going to be living in because of digital technologies. If it was something to do with the outback or if it's country, I would then question whether they would be able to connect with it on the level that we would want with our students. So start looking at your community and start thinking about everything around you within the lens of digital technologies. So to help you start then thinking about it is these are different parts of the curriculum. So when you are looking at your community and when you are looking within your school, I want you to ask yourself all of these questions. These questions are based on the content that you'll find within the digital technologies curriculum. As soon as you start to say yes to one of these, you've made an alignment to the digital technologies curriculum. So is there anything that's happening within your school now where you can collect data on it? There's the data collection that we have within the digital technologies curriculum. Is there room for the students to design something new? What about problem solving? Is there a problem based on a specific theme that might be happening at your school that you can provide an opportunity for the students to solve that problem and provide you a range of solutions for that problem as well? What about the community that you have around you? How can that community, the solutions that they're creating help the wider community with any of the needs that they have as well? Next up, what about robotics? Can robotics and programming be a method to solve a problem that you might find within the school or within the greater community? Is there room to start looking at the hardware and software that's associated to any technologies that they might be looking at to solve that problem? What about collaboration? Can they use any technology to work online and work on projects together? So what I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but I actually go out to schools and I assist teachers with the digital technologies curriculum and help them to create units of work. When I'm sitting down with teachers, I actually look through those questions and think about all of those questions and try to answer them as I'm going along and learning about the school. When I answer those questions and I'm looking at it, I'm then starting to create some ideas and lesson plans around it. And most importantly, it comes from something that is meaningful for the students and something that is happening within their community as well. So I helped out Tegan, who we will be hearing from later on, and I want to take you through the process that we used to create a scope and sequence for her school. So we can see one of the very first things that we did is that I got to know Tegan and I got to know the school because I wanted to know the environment in which she teaches. We had a look at the whole school and the program. So Tegan was coming into the school as a specialist teacher, brand new to this area. There was no lesson plans. There was no resources for her. So she was literally starting from scratch, which I'm sure a lot of you would be doing now as well. So I came in and I supported her and gave her a couple of ideas. And the very first thing that we did is I got to know what was happening in each of the year levels. So Tegan is a specialist teacher from foundation to year 4. What I then found is that we went through and we spoke about the type of units of work that were already happening in the classroom, and then we could bring those ideas and look at them with the lens of digital technologies. So you'll notice here's the first photo that we have is that these are all the term term planners that are actually happening with each of the classrooms. So you can see here that foundation, we just spoke about what was already going to be happening in the school. When we were able to find an immediate correlation with the digital technologies curriculum, we popped something down on our brainstorm that was in red. So you can see down the bottom right-hand corner of the slide, you can see term 2, and the students were already learning about weather. That is a perfect opportunity to be starting to look at data collection, but also wouldn't it be cool if we get our little foundation kiddies to start designing a brand new weather station as well. So all of those ideas were happening in the background as we were doing it as well. You can see here, and I do know that it probably is quite small for you as well, but we do actually have all of these the brainstorming that we did do. I have popped it in the resource folder for you as well, so you're more than welcome to download this to have a look at a better option. So you can see that year 1 and year 2, everything that we found, at least one opportunity to align the digital technologies curriculum to what the teachers were already teaching. And we just took it a little bit differently. So you can see up in the top left-hand corner that we've got year 1s. They were doing mini beasts. And what a great idea. Again, data collection came into those year 1s. Because it was a brand new year level, what we didn't do is we didn't say that, right, we were just going to focus on, say, data collection in year 1. Tegan was quite happy to find any types of connections to the digital technologies curriculum across the whole year level. So even though we only need to assess the data collection from that foundation to year 2, we wanted to provide the students with as many opportunities to experience data collection, especially when we're running this for the first time as well. So again, coming in, you can have a look again. If you have a look at the year 2, in term 1, they were looking at past and present. And so I love this one, and I can't wait to get feedback on Tegan on how this one worked. So when they were looking at past and present, on the weekend, I'd actually been playing Mario Kart with my nephew. Of course, he won and I lost. But what I was actually thinking about, it brought me back to an experience that my nephew, who is in grade 4, he was playing Mario Kart. And I actually thought, well, look at Mario Brothers and how Mario Brothers and technology and gaming has changed over time as well. So the students in their classroom were learning about past and present and were applying that knowledge to the digital technologies, and we wanted to give them as many digital technologies experiences as possible with what they were already doing in the classroom so they can start making more connections. Then this one here, we've got our year 3s and 4s on this page as well. So they started doing in term 4 that they were looking at sustainability. And Tegan is actually based down in Phillip Island. So of course, again, quite close to the beach. And so we were looking at how we can, and the types of data that they collect about the penguins and how they keep their beaches safe, and what's happening with any digital systems that they have with their penguins. Again, we wanted to bring it back and make it relevant to the students there as well. So I think out of all of the terms that we had within that brainstorming session, there were only 2 terms that we couldn't find a connection to what was already being taught within the school. And so we ended up wanting to do some standalone robotics with them as well. So that was when we put that in, that was the terms that we put the robotics in. So you can have a look and you can see as well that with term 3, there were celebrations, with year 3 in term 1, that we've got celebrations, and then there's Earth as well. Again, that we can start looking at data collecting about all the different things that are going on with our solar system as well. And you can see that there's a couple of red arrows on this one as well, because what was happening in term 1 is we wanted to build it in and continue the process on term 3 as well. This probably brainstorming session only took us about 20 or 30 minutes, and we didn't even think about any resources. We didn't think about the curriculum. What we wanted to do was just brain dump a lot of ideas and slowly filter them through. So that was phase 1. Phase 2, we then went and created a yearly overview. So we transformed all of that brainstorming and all of those ideas, which you can imagine how many ideas came out of that session, onto a yearly planner. When we had the yearly planner, that's when we looked at the digital technologies curriculum, and that's when we really wanted to make that alignment. That's when we also started looking for specific resources and lesson ideas, say from Grok Learning, Code.org, and the Digital Technologies Hub, and some of the resources that I've created as well. What I didn't want Tegan to have is just to go blindly and looking for resources. So here's the yearly planner that I created for her. And I'm a big believer in one-page documents. I love to have everything out on one page. So we blew this up to an A3 size, and we put all of our ideas going down to the different terms for each year level. So we mapped it out, and so we had this whole skeleton overview of what was happening in year 1 over the course of the whole year. That's when we decided, when we went back to those ideas, were those ideas valid? Could they actually be rolled out into the school? Like, let's be realistic as well. This is the first time that Tegan was doing this. And most importantly, were we trying to get across as many different areas of the curriculum as possible? So you can see, now again, I know that you won't be able to read it, but one thing that I want to focus on is there's a little red box there. That little red box contains all the information and the key words that are found from the digital technologies curriculum. Tegan's school is using the Australian curriculum, so I grabbed all of the titles that we see just before each of the content descriptions, and so we were able to map it out. There were times where we actually found that all of our ideas ended up being quite data heavy. You know, I find that data is one of those first ones. It's a really great way to align to the digital technologies curriculum first, and we found that there were some ones that were just a little bit too heavy, so then we had to go back to the drawing board and just to try and get a better spread as possible. Again, it was all on one page. Now, if you're a teacher who is not using the digital technologies, the Australian digital technologies curriculum, fear not. In the resource folder, I have made a planner like this for the Victorian curriculum, the New South Wales Science and Technology syllabus, and the WA Digital Technologies curriculum. I've grabbed all the wording that would be specific to your curriculum and created different PDF files for you as well. So what we ended up doing was we looked at what was already happening. what any particular connections that we can make within the school. And then also what we had is any integration to other curriculum areas as well. So Tegan, because she came from a classroom teacher into this specific role, if there were times that we might be able to start to look at, say, the design and technologies curriculum, we wanted to be able to put that in there as well. The next one then, so we've gone through and created a skeleton overview. So what it meant is that Tegan had all the information and ideas mapped out. And again, that one-page document, it's so great to be able to glance at one page and see everything that is going to happen over the course of the year. So then what we started to do is that we started to unpack each of those terms, and then we wanted to then unpack it and be a little bit more specific. And we started off and only focused on term 1. What it meant is that by the end of this, and this actually, can you believe that this took us a day to do as well? So I'm a very efficient and very effective worker. So if you need someone to come up with, almost a whole year's worth of work in a day, definitely contact me. So we wanted to then delve into the lessons that we had created, and that's when, again, we went on a search in all of those known areas like code.org, like Grok, the Digital Technologies Hub, some of the resources that ACS has created, and we were able to purposefully match them into the curriculum. So we then focused on, so this is then, again, I created another document for her. And as you can see that it's a summary. So again, you may not be able to read it now. I have got this particular example for you within the resources as well. So if you'd like to see it at a little bit more of a level, so you'd be able to read them. But what we did is when I go into a school and when I support teachers, I don't want to support them and tell you how to teach. That's your job to do. That's not mine. What I do want to do is give you an overview of what to expect within that lesson, and then you can run it however you want. So you'll notice the very first column that we have is a summary, and you can see how quickly that summary is as well. The next one, which I find is very vital for teachers, is the learning intention and the success criteria. I find as an educator myself, if I've got the learning intention and the success criteria ready to go, I know exactly what to expect from my students as well, and kind of how to unravel that curriculum as well. The next one along is because Tegan is new to the digital technologies curriculum, and I wanted to give her as much experience as possible, is that we actually put in the content descriptions of the digital technologies curriculum. So it meant then that every single lesson was aligned to the curriculum, and we were honouring the curriculum at every single stage. What she also loved, and what I found to be so beneficial, is an assessment statement as well. So every single lesson came with a quick blanket overview of what was going to happen within that particular lesson as well. It meant that when Tegan would then, I know that her particular school is going down the road of ongoing assessment. So if she has to start that ongoing assessment, she's got that little 1 or 2 sentence that you can see that is explicit to her. So that's the part that I wanted to show you, and the processes that I have taken to help teachers create a scope and sequence and a yearly planner for the digital technologies curriculum. All of the resources and the planners that I do have, as I said, I have put them in the resource folder for you. And if you are looking at any way to connect with me and help you create a planner like this, please get in contact with me. I do have my contact details on one of the last slides as well. Next we have is I'd like to introduce Angela and Nicola from Primary Connections, and they will be talking about how they have now started to align Primary Connections with information that they've and the science units that they already have that are available. Thanks so much, Angela.
Thank you, Catherine. Hello, my name is Angela Gigliotti, and it's great to be with you. Thank you, Catherine, for having us. Shortly you'll hear from my colleague Nicola Judkovic, and we are Primary Connections. Primary Connections is quite unique in that we work with teachers and for teachers. All of the resources are extensively trialled and thoroughly documented as curriculum units. That said, the units are extremely agile, they're resource light, and later Nicola will show you some resources that support you to adapt and tailor units that currently exist for your own context. So this part of the presentation is in two parts. The first part will focus on why primary connections is a really good fit for the digital technologies from a curriculum and pedagogy perspective. And the second bit will be how this is exemplified in the units. Nicola will cover that off. And then once you've had a look at that and heard what we've had to say and showcased some of the resources, you might decide that it could be a really good inclusion for you in the scope and sequence of digital technology. So the primary connections approach is one of guided inquiry. And the structure and the content of the digital curriculum really does favour pedagogies that engage students actively in learning in a hands-on way. And in that way, the inquiry approach is really fit for purpose. The primary connections inquiry approach is enabled by the 5E model, and that's really the underpinning framework. The phases of the 5Es really highlight how students are afforded opportunities to, practice skills and develop skills and capabilities that are really particularly well aligned with the digital technology. So we're going to have a look at this by leaning into really the inquiry skills in science and the process and production skills in the digital technologies. And the point that's really important to make here is that one of the really big ideas in the digital technology is thinking and encouraging students in the thinking process. And this is really important from a teaching and learning perspective. It's quite significant when we are looking at the digital technologies as a learning area or a subject in the technologies learning area, that it's about the process, the learning process, and rather less emphasis on the product. So the science inquiry skills support students to engage in the process of science as they are learning science. And the process and production skills in technology enable students to engage in the technology process. So at the end, students are thinking like scientists and thinking like technologists, engineers and designers. And this enables science as a context through science inquiry to really well align with the digital technologies curriculum through the process and production skills. And that's really the lens through which we are going to exemplify the alignment with the curriculum unit. So honing in on those processes and production skills, and I note that Catherine did mention lots of these examples related to data and design in the work that she's been doing with Tegan. We're going to lean into those skills and we're going to do a bit of a spotlight through two particular curriculum units, one early years unit and one latter years unit, just to highlight how that all connects in and how the synergies are possible using primary connections, resources and approach. So I'm going to throw over to Nicola, who will take you through those detailed examples that spotlight that synergy. Over to you, Nicola.
Thanks, Angela. Hi, everyone. On your screen now is an overview of one of the Primary Connections Foundation units focused on the chemical sciences. It's called What's It Made Of? In this unit, students explore materials through the 5E guided inquiry model over 6 lessons. To give a sense of timing, most teachers implement a Primary Connections unit over approximately one school term. What we've highlighted on this slide are the opportunities to address digital technologies, process and production skills that are already present in the unit. For example, in the Engage phase, in Lesson 1, students use sequencing skills to draw maps and represent the sequence or order of the places they visited while they took a walk through the school environment, observing the materials that things are made of. This addresses the second process and production skill for this year level to follow, describe and represent a sequence of steps and decisions. In the Explore phase of this unit, students sort objects according to the materials they are made of. This addresses the first process and production skill to collect, explore and sort data and use digital systems to present the data. In the Explain phase of this unit, students also address the first process and production skill. while they label, compare and observe properties of objects and present the data. Additionally, with a slight augmentation, the fourth process and production skill in the digital technologies curriculum can also be addressed. In the elaborate and the evaluate phases, students demonstrate their understanding by explaining their choice of materials and objects. So to meet this fourth process and production skills, students could create multimedia files about their chosen materials and objects to inform the school community about ideal materials for new outdoor objects. Focusing on years 3 and 4 now, let's take a look at a Primary Connections biology unit, Feathers, Fur or Leaves, in which students identify, classify specimens with a particular focus on their local school environment. Like the previous unit we unpacked, this unit also addresses most of the process and production skills as summarised on this slide. But please note that we have represented an abbreviation of the process and production skills here so that they fit nicely on the slide. But in the supporting resources that we will provide for you at the end of this webinar, we'll outline these process and production skills as they're fully represented in the curriculum. Already embedded in the Feather, Fur and Leaves unit are multiple opportunities to address the digital technologies. In the Explore phase, students could graph data that is presented by all students in their class after their home exploration is complete, and you can see a sample of the home exploration task in the image in the top right. In the Explain phase, students use a branching key to support them to classify animal specimens. The branching key is pictured in the bottom right of this slide. After becoming familiar with the purpose and application of a branching key, students could design a digital branching key, for example, that includes questions to answer and arrows to follow until an object or a specimen is classified. Another opportunity to address the digital technologies in this unit is in the Elaborate phase. Students could supplement their investigation into school leaf litter by conducting a survey to identify the school community needs and interests and creating a digital solution in the form of a database to raise awareness of biodiversity, or lack thereof, in the school grounds. They were just 2 examples of the 41 Primary Connections Science Inquiry units that support students to engage in technological activity while engaged in inquiry science. Here on this slide, we have summarised some of the resources that Primary Connections and the Academy of Science provide that can be included in a digital technologies scope and sequence. Videos. The Australian Academy of Science has an incredible media team that produce numerous short 2 to 3 minute videos rigorously reviewed by our scientists for the purpose of making science engaging and accessible to the Australian public. These short and really visually appealing videos make many of them suitable for showing your students. Playlists are a new idea from Primary Connections. They are a curated list of resources available on Scootle or the equivalent in your state and the Digital Technologies Hub. These list of resources on our playlists, they complement the teaching and learning of an existing Primary Connections unit. Playlists include text, photographs, videos and interactive games and activities. They're available on learning paths on Scootle. E-resource sheets are the editable versions of student resources found in Primary Connections units. So if you are already familiar with our units, they're the student resource sheets that you've been printing or photocopying all these years. Now they're available as editable Word documents downloadable for free from our website. Fantastic for differentiating and really tailoring to students' literacy needs or learning needs. Other resources freely available to download on Primary Connections website include posters for the staff room and classroom, our units in PDF format, assessment rubrics, work samples and equipment lists. Thanks, Catherine. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Angela and Nicola, for giving us an introduction to Primary Connections and all of the, I can't believe there's 41 units of work. That is amazing. And I know that I have always been a lover of all things when it comes to primary school connections. I'm now going to pass you over to Tegan, and she is a teacher who has started off her journey as a specialist Digitech teacher within her school, and who also I connected at the beginning of the year and helped her create a scope and sequence for all of her for foundation to year 4. I wanted to bring Tegan on board because I wanted to show and share a teacher's reflection on when she is starting out within this one, and also where she hopes to go further with a digital technology specialist teacher role. Thanks so much, Tegan.
Thanks, Catherine, and hi, everyone. My role is basically a hybrid of a teacher in a library and digital technology specialist teacher. It was really born out of necessity. Classroom teachers did not feel they had the skills or the know-how to introduce the curriculum, and as a result, the curriculum was not really being taught in each year level across our primary years. We also really didn't have a scope and sequence, so a student might have many digital technology experiences and learning opportunities one year, and then for the next 2, depending on their classroom teacher, mightn't have had any at all. So my role was introduced. To work in with the timetable and to ensure students are still borrowing from the library, I teach digital technologies every second week for a single period of 40 minutes. But with the early years, this really ends up being 25 minutes to 30 as they still need time to borrow. This is something that I would like to change in the future, but this is really our first stage, and even with limited time, students are still having those important experiences and we are able to develop skills and knowledge of the curriculum. One of the many things I've learnt this year is the importance and credibility of unplugged activities. Realistically, a fair chunk of the curriculum can be taught offline. At times, sure, we need to be creative with our planning, but once you have a rhythm or get going, it's surprising how much of the digital technologies curriculum can be taught without a device in hand. In fact, my prep lessons were all unplugged for the duration of term 1, yet we did still cover parts of the curriculum. At the start of the year, I had the wonderful experience of working with Catherine to develop a scope and sequence for years prep to 4. As I said, it is every second week, and as term 1 is so packed full of sports carnivals as well as swimming lessons, we focused on developing between 4 to 5 lessons that covered the majority of the curriculum. The term focus and lesson activities are reflective of what's being taught in the classroom, and in this way we are going cross-curricular. In the example here, you can see we have taken the Year 2 history focus of past and present, which Catherine mentioned before. That is the classroom, which in the classroom usually focuses on transport, school, etc. And we tweaked it to reflect the digital technology and the changes to iconic video games. The students simply loved this experience. My principal has timetabled the digital technologies lessons to be part of the classroom teacher's load. So teachers actually attend with their students. Depending on their skill level and what they feel comfortable with, this can be purely opportunity to observe how to teach this side of the curriculum, or they can assist or team teach with me. This approach essentially means we are providing in-house peer-led PD for our junior school teachers and giving them support in an area that we as a school need to develop. Overall, the response from other teachers has been positive. They are valuing the subject and learning from their experiences. In the specialist digital technologies classroom, the kids are really loving this area of the curriculum and are really engaged with the content being taught. A big advantage for me in my position is the opportunity to teach the curriculum using thinking skills and strategies, which is important in today's day and age. And another great thing with activities, the unplugged activities, is that they help in a situation where you may have limited resources. The primary levels at my school are not one-to-one devices. So I have a class set of iPads that I need to book and share between the P to 4 classrooms and 13 Spiros that are shared from prep to year 8. At first, it does feel daunting trying to scope and sequence digital technologies with limited resources, but the reality is that no matter how many resources I have, I will probably always want more. The experience has taught me that this is actually an easier challenge to overcome, and it is possible to teach the digital technologies curriculum unplugged without an abundance of devices. I have experienced a range of responses from my colleagues, from those that are fully on board to those that don't know how and appreciate the in-house PD, and those do not agree with the focus being on digital technologies in the library at all. They feel that the students do not need this area of the curriculum, as they think that this age group are digital natives and naturally build these skills through their experiences in their environment. Honestly, I'm hoping that through my teaching and demonstrating that the curriculum can be taught and linked in the classroom, that this area is particularly important, and that I think that our recent remote teaching and learning experiences have shown that. The thing I found most challenging is that there are more experienced teachers than me that have a very different understanding of the digital technologies curriculum and the ICT curriculum than me. As this is out of my control, I'm hoping that after a few more terms, I can begin to demonstrate another way of teaching, that I am not changing the curriculum, but simply adding to it. The scope and sequence has changed since learning from home. Basically, a greater focus was on core and specialist subjects were really just optional. This will mean I will be adjusting the scope and sequence for next term, and at the moment, this is really just a bit up in the air for me. What I would like to do is be a part of a beginning digital technologies teachers network and for a platform for collaborating and communicating. Ideally, I would like the classroom teachers to take the planning that I've done in the lesson activities and tweak it to suit themselves and then implement it in the classroom setting the following year. In this way, my subject area is always developing and adapting. I would hope in the next few years at my school, either this specialist role becomes obsolete, it doesn't exist anymore, or really gears up and becomes more than the basic skills that I'm teaching at the moment, because these can be then taught in the classroom by the classroom teachers. And that's all from me, so I'll just hand over to Catherine. Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Tegan. That was really great insight on where your school has come from and where it continues to go as well with the digital technologies curriculum. So I've just got here a slide of just our final thoughts and just a bit of a summary of what we went through over the course of this webinar. And when you are looking at, if you are a Digitech specialist teacher, how do you know that the program that you are running will have a lasting effect on the school and the students? Again, if you are that sole person within your school, making sure that that program continues on if you do leave. We just don't want to have a program that completely goes off if you leave your school. The next one is when you are looking at creating a digital technology scope and sequence, the first thing to look at is look at your school. So look at and think about what is already happening in your school and how that can already be applied to your term planner. Always look at things through the lens of digital technologies curriculum as well. Look at units of work with the digital technologies curriculum and think about it from a computational design or design thinking or systems thinking perspective. And lastly, what about looking at STEM? Can you turn a current unit into a STEM inquiry unit and have a focus of science and digital technologies at the same time? You might have then a resource, an assessment piece that not only assesses the digital technologies curriculum, but also the science curriculum as well. And remember, the most important thing is this is all a journey. Whether you've done this for a year or a couple of years or you're starting out this year, is that continue to improve each year and develop your skills. Thank you so much for joining us today. And all of the information, again, it's always a jam-packed session. And before we go on to our question time, just want you to know that all of the resources and information that we have passed on today is all available through the community of practice at the ICT Educators. We have a dedicated forum that's called Webinar 6 Creating a Scope and Sequence, where I've put the slideshow, all of the planners that I've spoken about, the units of work from the Primary Connections team, and also if you are looking for someone to connect with that will help you and assist you to create a scope and sequence like I did for Tegan and her school, please get in contact with me. My email address is just down the bottom, and if you are a Twitter fan like me, you can certainly follow me on Twitter, where my handle is Empowered Digitech. Quite relevant for me, I think. Also, if you are looking at the digital technologies curriculum, be aware that I do assist and support and create lessons with schools as well. We have a resource centre for the Foundation to Year 10 digital technologies curriculum. We have about probably around about 100 resources now. One of them, which I have found to be quite useful if you are coming from a different state, is that I have created resources that align the digital technologies curriculum from the Australian curriculum to the New South Wales syllabus, to the Victorian curriculum and the WA curriculum. So if you are looking at something and some lessons that are aligned with the digital technologies, the Australian digital technologies curriculum, use those resources to help you to see where it aligns to your curriculum as well. Now, have we got any questions? Oh, we do have some questions coming in now. Don't be shy. Please answer some questions. And I've already got one here. And Tegan, this is for you. How did Tegan develop her familiarity with IT and Digitech? Any resources, groups, or anything that you might recommend to some people in the audience?
Certainly. So my, background is I've always just been very passionate about the digital technologies curriculum, and I've always enjoyed teaching it. So I guess the reality is, for me, a lot of it has come from trial and error and research on the internet. The best thing about YouTube is that it is really PD for teachers as well as Pinterest. And realistically, the way that I was able to scope and sequence and develop my understanding of how to get students to understand the digital technologies, it was actually through Catherine and my meeting with her. So Catherine originally actually came out to my school to give PD, and that's how I originally connected with her. And it was basically through that experience that I was then able to start to really become a specialist teacher in this area. I think the thing with me to remember is that I am just starting out, so I am probably very much like you, and it really does come down to a lot of research on the internet and a lot of asking more experienced people for some help. In terms of a platform that we can all meet on, I was actually hoping that through this PD I could make some connections of my own, and then we could then develop our own platform, or maybe ask Catherine for some help so that we have a space to meet, collaborate, communicate, and troubleshoot some of those more challenging situations that we're going to find ourselves in. I hope that answered your question. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, that was a great question as well. Thanks so much, Tegan. And yes, what I am hoping to do is use the ACS community of practice to actually create a forum specific for any Digitech specialist teachers. I found myself, even though I was a Digitech leader, I was still the classroom teacher and out as a Digitech leader at my previous school. And I found that I kind of felt a little bit lonely at times because I was the only one who was very enthusiastic with digital technologies. I found it quite hard to actually find and meet people who were in the same mindset as me as well, and just wanted to connect and see what they were doing with their school. So I understand that that can be a huge challenge, and I don't want you to feel like you are alone, even though you might be that sole Digitech person at your school. That's definitely something that I'd love to do, and definitely want to hear your opinions if that you would find a forum post like that somewhere for you to go as well. So just pop in the chat now. If that's something that you'd like me to do, I can certainly create that for you, no problems at all. Now, there's another question that's come in, and it talked about should we start with data first, then decide what device that we should bring into the school, or focus on what we want first, then collect the data? Is there anyone from the Primary Connections team that might want to answer that one?
I'll have a go.
Thanks,
Anne.
Catherine.
Tegan, I'll get you to go second. Nicola, was that you?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Nicola.
Hi, thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Tegan. I was in a similar position to Tegan, except that I was the science geek, the science nerd at my school, and certainly the other teachers were avoiding teaching science, and so I happily raised my hand. So I absolutely relate to the experience of Catherine and Tegan. So I prefaced the answer to this question with that experience, and I absolutely agree. Start with your unplugged version of your implementation of the Digitech curriculum, because that will give you a sense of, like Tegan said, bringing teachers on board. That is not a scary way. It'll be really inviting for them and really accessible and doable. So yeah, starting with data collection is a really great way, because that links to areas of history, science and mathematics already, and then you can see what devices might fulfill that need or extend that data collection for your students. Angela, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would like to add that I think that one of the big challenges in technologies education is really encouraging our students to be technologically literate and fluent. And I think that when you come from the approach of here's some data, here's some evidence, what is fit for purpose to enable us to use that in a really creative, productive way in technology, then you really are supporting students to become technologically fluent. As opposed to if you have the device and then go, okay, so what can we do with that? That's great. That sort of meets the requirements of the ICT capabilities and bringing in ICT as a tool for learning, but doesn't really dig deep into that understanding of technology as a process and the relevant Digitech skills that underpin that. So, like Nicola, I had a similar role to Tegan's as well, and I think that for me it was always about making that learning experience really rich and located in the curriculum. In this case, the Digitech curriculum and the science curriculum together, and as a result, would probably recommend and suggest that you start with the data. It's more authentic, it's located closer to what students can do, and then how do we use some technology tools to get the greatest bang for buck out of that learning from using that data and that data collection.
Yeah,
thanks, Kathleen.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that as well. But when you are looking at robotics, what we don't want to do is have a robotics and then try and fit that into the curriculum. Because at the end of the day, a teacher's job is to honour the curriculum. So I would suggest that if you are starting out in this space, is to try some unplugged activities first. You might even have a whole entire year of unplugged. That's okay. I do know that there are content descriptions that look at visual programming, especially in that in the primary years sector. That's okay. It's not the end of the world if you don't, if you're not looking at that. And remember that you can start to also look at that in free programs like Scratch. What you don't want to have is quickly hurry yourself to buy some robotics and then try and squeeze that into the curriculum. Experience the curriculum first, experience what the expectations are with each year level, and then try and find the robotics that would best fit what you're doing within your school as well. And I know, so the school that I came from, it was a one-to-one iPad school. So we already had a lot of investment in that. So unfortunately for the last couple of years as me being the Digitech leader, my budget was $0 a year. So I had to look at ways to incorporate iPads and apps in. And I would say I probably looked at thousands upon thousands of apps, because I was actually then looking for, rather than me pulling an app out and going, how can I use that in the classroom? I thought about what app was best and then or the idea or something to find, and then I went searching for an app as well. Just by changing that around and looking and putting the curriculum first will allow you then to find the best resource to do the job that your school is looking for as well. There was another question that came up. Is there anyone else who would like to try that one? So I'll actually start off and answer that question that yes, absolutely you can. So if you are looking at a problem to solve first, then you might be able to find the robotics that will fit within that problem as well. So say if you've got something like spheros, think about a problem that is all about movement and then get the robotics and the sphero to become that movement for you as well. So, things that you could do with problem solving, with spheros would be something like, and I know that we did this within the scope and sequence, is push and pull. We actually used and created little sphero chariot carts, and all it was a paper cup over the top of the sphero, and then we created a little chariot for it, and then we looked at the difference between how much weight the sphero could hold when it was pushing or pulling and which one was different as well. So that was a way that we used robotics to solve the problem of pushing and pulling. Another one. Oh, that is fantastic. Sorry, I've just had one of the comments to come through that a lot of you are certainly keen to create a forum. I will do that as soon as I'm off this webinar, and if you go back to, I will have it available for you at that website there for you as well. So I will have that directly above all the information for this webinar, and I really hope that you can use it as a space to connect with other teachers across Australia. And if you do then need help aligning it to the curriculums, so if one person's coming from New South Wales and they're connected to a Victorian teacher, I can certainly help you with that alignment to the curriculum as well. So, and then there was, this one's a goodie. How do you differentiate the curriculum, the digital technologies curriculum for different year levels? Does anyone want to try that one? That's a good question. Oh, these are really great questions today. Thank you so much for bringing them all in.
I'll have a go at that, Catherine.
Beautiful, Angela. Thank you.
I think it is our experience and our position at Primary Connections with respect to differentiation that essentially you differentiate through processes, in our case through literacy processes and through numeracy processes, and in this case through the process and production skills. I think they provide a wonderful opportunity to scaffold learning for students and as a result differentiate their learning experiences. Differentiation is a challenge in all areas of the curriculum, and I think that as teachers we all understand that. But I think from our perspective and definitely from my experience, it's difficult to differentiate at a content understanding level because they're fairly fixed, and that has its own implications if you progress into the scope and sequence of the Australian curriculum. So I think a good place to start is to look at those process and production skills and imagine ways in which you can stretch your students or simultaneously scaffold to support their learning around those skills as a focus. So supporting them with data, supporting them with all of those things that are embedded in the process and production skills. I don't know if that's answered it, but but that would be my approach, Catherine.
Yeah, no, that would also be my approach as well. Thanks, Angela. There's another question in here as well that talks about digital systems, and I find the teaching the digital systems area of the curriculum very dry, and students struggle to understand. Any tips? I'll start off with one tip, is that a lot of the curriculum ideas that I've seen is all just about identifying networks. And what we're not actually then doing is putting it into a real life scenario. So anytime you're teaching anything, think about a system in place that's obviously a digital one, but also a non-digital one. I helped a teacher who was looking at, and they were creating a unit of work on natural disasters. And, they were always about, teaching about natural disasters, and it was really just at that identification stage. And me, myself as a teacher, I've always tried to go deeper as far as we can and make it learning authentic and deep for them. And when we get to that level, that's when we know we're hitting something and the students are engaged. So I looked at the natural disasters with the hat of digital technologies onto it. Digital technologies plays a massive role within Australia when we are looking at natural disasters, especially when it's, say, the fires and the bushfire season, is that digital technologies are around to connect one another. And I know Motorola plays a massive part within that. So we actually went from identifying the natural disasters to looking at digital systems that are in place to help natural disasters. We then took it a little bit further, evaluated those systems, and then the students designed their own one. So instead of just looking at a network and just finding, you know, what does the network and the internet look like, we actually brought it into a unit of work that they were already teaching and created it so it actually had that authentic experience and meaningful experience for them as well. When I spoke about that they designed their own one, it was good old-fashioned pen and paper as well. So it wasn't anything that was like some of them did create a 3D model, but it wasn't really about the 3D model. It was about applying the knowledge of networks and systems to something that they were already teaching in the classroom and allowing the teachers to experience the digital technologies curriculum. Does anyone else have anything to say about systems and that part of the curriculum as well?
Well, I would just like to add that in the context of science, pattern systems is a constant in terms of understanding science. And so there are just so many wonderful opportunities to wrap the digital technologies, you know, big ideas and skills within the context of systems in science. And you can do that through, you know, a range of science strands, you know, all the way from biology, physics, chemistry. It's all part of one of the big overarching ideas in science. So I would strongly suggest people have a play around with that and see what they can see as an opportunity, because you know, and you might want to start with something in the sustainability area, for example, ecosystems, which is you know, a really easy place to start in a way because it's familiar and relevant for students, and you can bring all of that systems thinking and systems learning into that context quite easily through science.
Thank you so much, Angela. And I haven't even realised that we've actually gone past 5 o'clock. I'm loving all of these questions. I wish we could all stay on for a little bit longer, but I'm pretty sure you all have to go home and put your feet up after a long day of work as well. Now, I have been told that the links that we did push out through the webinar, they weren't working. Rest assured, I'll speak to Nicola and Angela and get those up and running, and I will put them in the forum post where all of the resources are available for you as well. I cannot thank enough Tegan, Nicola and Angela for joining me today. I have had such a ball speaking to all of you and connecting with everyone, and just with all the questions that were coming through, I can see that a lot of the audience have found this a really meaningful webinar for you. There were more questions, and I will go into the webinar forum because I will actually go through and answer some of them, because one of them came in about green screens, and yes, I have done a green screen, and it was actually made out of green cardboard and it worked a treat. So I will actually tell you my experience on that one. I told you my budget was $0 for 5 years. I had to be inventive. If you've got A3 green paper at your school and you've got a couple of thumbtacks, you're good to go. I cannot thank you all enough for joining me today. Thank you for our guests for coming in, and hopefully you found something that is definitely worthwhile and something that you can apply for your school as well. Please get into contact with me. It is now my job to support teachers with the digital technologies curriculum, and I look forward to connecting with you a little bit further on. Thank you so much.